Make sure you turn on the mic, bro.
Yeah. So, what's up? My name is Joshua Da Silva. I am 19 years old. I am currently studying graphic design at Inkscape, and I am involved in creativity as I am a music producer. I am a visual artist, and hopefully going to be one day a graphic designer.
My name is Marco Mutezo. I'm an artist and currently involved in culinary arts. It's not about food only, but yeah, I'm also a creator.
Yeah, hey, my name's Cameron Rain Blake. I am currently at the moment unemployed, but I'm involved creatively through creating videos, YouTube videos, like social media content for people. And I also am super into photography, especially street photography.
Hey, what's up? My name is Orating Unkwe. I'm a maker of things as well, fashion designer. Yeah, just an artist in general. I just like making things. I'm studying graphic design at UP as well. Not information design, sorry.
Yeah, I was really like, graphic design, boy, you lying. All right. So, question number one. For you gentlemen, what does it mean to be a creative designer in South Africa today?
It means looking back at our past and continuing to lead everybody who's in the design world in Africa and setting a new standard, because there's a new design language that's growing amongst us. And since Africa's full of young people, or like half of Southern Africa has people under the age of 25 unemployed. So I think design in right now in South Africa, it's gonna explode. And there's no one way about doing things anymore.
Yeah, I think it's expressing who you are through the art that you love, whether that's designing clothes, whether that's like throwing a logo for a business together, designing and creating in the environment we love and throwing that, that African flair onto it.
I think it means being a creative in this day and age means taking what you have in terms of your talent and expanding it and using it in a way that can express I'd say a certain identity, or if you look into the past, you want to revisit the old message or create your own one. I just think using your talent and ability to do that is one way to, really, really stand out and be that guy in today's day and age.
Yeah, I think I can agree with all of you guys. All of us here have basically touched on the point that it's all about identity. And so I think design is just being able to look from within your past experiences and also being influenced by that without. So everything around you, society, whether we like it or not, has a massive influence on how we perceive things. And so I think it's being able to take all of those factors into account and putting out a message in a creative way, be it photography, be it music, fashion, hell, even food, bro. Now, how much do you think your upbringing or your culture affects you as a designer or a creative?
I think it affects it a lot, only in the sense that it's difficult, because at one point you're trying to find out about yourself, and the other point you might not know about yourself. So I think there's two parts of you. Maybe the design that was influenced by whatever you liked at the moment, and the design where you kind of look for influences, like what I said, in your past, which can completely change like the whole narrative. So that's how I see it. Yeah.
Your culture and your upbringing definitely plays like a huge role in how you perceive your world and how you perceive things. Like, it just builds your perspective of what's happening. I think the part of design and creativity is you become your own person by incorporating what you've learned from the past. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd say your culture and your upbringing just plays a huge role in determining your identity and just what influences you as a person, because in the age that we live in, you consume a lot of media, and what type of media you consume, in a way, it can influence who you become and the choices you make and whatnot. So I'd say, yeah, your culture and your upbringing it doesn't play a huge part in your identity, and that's why it will show in your design.
Cam and Ora just said something like so important. Like, it clicked. I mean, I think I divided it, but like it's crazy because how you were like brought up, it's kind of like time changes, and I feel like design, it kind of translates your morals and your beliefs, because from when you're young to when you're old, pray that we make it there. I think there's a big difference in terms of the times around us physically change, but
Yeah.
the things we learned that we can't like see and touch, they stay with us.
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely morals and values.
Again, you know, when I say upbringing, you know, we could talk about you know, your culture and your family and stuff, but I guess, you know, there's always this term that how our generation's being brought up by the internet. You know, we're created by the internet, and I 100% think that generations in the future are also going to be raised by the internet. The different societies and the different cultures we're influenced by definitely play a role in us being creatives. And I think in South Africa as a whole, as I mentioned in our last talk, is just because we're in a country that has so many different ethnicities and cultures and groups of people that it's extremely unique, you know. And so I think that, you know, we have so many different forms of music, so many different forms of art, all originating from one country, and it's very, very rare to find that much, you know, multinationalisms, if I can put it like that, in one country. So I think it's really, really dope. All right. What do you guys think are some issues creatives and designers like us encounter? Now, by us, I mean people who are, you know, 19, 20, 21 years old, just out of high school, unemployed, or in first year, second year of university. What do you guys think are some issues that we as designers and creatives can encounter?
I just wanna, I hope the lecturers, they can like really feel what I'm saying, because they need to open up the creative industry. They need to stop commercializing art. Because I mean, looking at this COVID situation, I'm just gonna bring up this disadvantage. I mean, I had other ones, but this is the most important one. I think it's gonna explain everything. People in the entertainment industry, for example, the Minister of Arts and Culture, he said that he put these, or they decided, his board and then decided to put these qualifications that you had to be internationally recognized, you have to have accolades before you can actually get a grant to help your business or whatever art form you're partaking in. And like when you look at that like little factor, you can imagine now with art, cool, most Africans do have the opportunity to go overseas and showcase their art normally, but not everybody has that opportunity because art doesn't always pay the bills.
Yeah.
So if we were in another situation, like small businesses in the market, in the economy, the same people, but they're not artistic in a way, in a sense that the industry doesn't just encourage these artistic activities. So they have the opportunity to just be like directly injected because they like make the economy, which isn't true, because someone has to make the adverts, someone has to make the pop-up events, someone needs to go call Cam to come shoot the whole thing happening. Someone needs to call Josh to be like, yo, make the poster. Someone needs to call Aura to tell them do the sound design. Like, bro, there's so many things that happen at that one corporate event that artistic just falls easy. So that's the biggest disadvantage before like it all gets filtered into like specific disadvantages. Yeah.
Another big disadvantage these days as well is people don't want to search, like Max saying that, like they don't want to search for a whole bunch of people to do one job. So I think a big issue these days is that you need to be like multifaceted in a way. So you need to be able to take pictures, you need to be able to do video, you need to be able to mix sound, you need to be able to make your own like posters and advertising and that kind of thing. So I think that is one of the biggest like uprising problems that creatives are facing, is just you're not allowed to be a one-trick pony anymore, if I can put it like that. Not like that, but just to put the point across.
I'd say probably the biggest challenge, or one of the biggest challenges, is just being paid, you know, just doing work and being paid. Like, because a lot of people, they place a certain value on your work, which might not be the same as what you place on it. So it can cause that thing where you think, you know, I should be getting this much, when in fact this guy only thinks it's worth this much. And that's what happens a lot of the time. And there's a stereotype of the starving artist, and nobody wants to be the starving artist. Like, everybody wants to be an artist, but nobody really wants to starve. So it's that thing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's it. That's the biggest challenge. Just paying those bills and holding it down while at the same time expressing yourself.
Yeah, that is such a difficult concept to grasp, because like, just thinking about what Cam said, like the dynamics is weird, because like you can be working for a straight year, you're a fast learner, you know how to take photos, you know how to edit, you know how to take videos, you know how to edit, and you're talented also. And then you ask your friend to help you, and then this guy's like, nah bro, you don't have like any qualifications in terms of like, you don't have a track record. Yeah. And then on top of that, you're like, cool, I got the skill. And then you approach this business or this company, and then you do the job, and then they're like, we can only pay this much, when your level of work is probably like, So it's weird.
All of us here understand the issue of getting paid. Mac and I, we used to work in the same mall, and sometimes we'd meet up and we talk about how we appreciate getting paid, but it's hard. Like, it's not nice having to get paid and doing something you don't like.
That money.
And it goes like that, bro. And the best thing in the world is getting paid doing something you love. And in the email interview I had with an illustrator this week, I asked him what's his favorite part about this job, and he said, the fact that I get to wake up, doodle, and I get paid for it. So I think that's a massive issue. But I also think that one of the issues we encounter is we live in, specifically here in South Africa, we live in a society that isn't as accepting of creative ventures by young people. Cam even mentioned in another talk about how when he goes to shoot, he'd rather go shoot in Joburg than in Pretoria, because it's different. People aren't as accepting to creatives, being creative out there in the world. It's one thing to be a creative on your own at home on your laptop, and then it's another thing to display that kind of work. And so I think us as young people, it's kind of hard. Also, again, a lot of us are influenced by the factor that your guys' parents, lived through a really rough time in apartheid, and they have that in the back of their conscience, and so of course they want the best for their kids. And so they're going to push you to have something concrete and solid. So we, it's trying to find that balance, getting paid and doing what you like. It's really, really hard. But, touching on all those negatives, let's move on to some positives. I want to know what you guys think are some major advantages that we, being the creators we are, so young, we will encounter.
I'd say these days, I think it's easier to do it on your own than it was, because we have what we have in terms of, internet and social media. You don't really need a whole team to get your thing going. You get what I mean? You could build a whole brand image and do all of that just by yourself if you really, really, really wanted to. It's nice to have other people with you and helping you, but if you really have to, you can. It's an option,
I have a counterpoint, but I'm just like, you're right. You're absolutely right. We have the tools. But I think the knowledge that you can have in a group of people, I never want to take that away,
Like at our age, if I'm looking at it from that point, is that we're not going to hit a midlife crisis somewhere and be like, okay, now I want to be creative.
Yeah.
From the get-go, from the starting block, we've been pumping. So that's like how I see it. So I think if you're at our age and our like position in life, you've kind of realized like, hey, this is my passion. Like, this is what I love, and this is what I draw energy from. This is what I want to do. So you've carved a more like solid path out. Obviously, there's also circumstances where people are forced into things they don't want to do, or like careers they don't want to follow. But I think for us, and for people like us, we've been blessed with just like a more set mindset on what we want to do.
Yeah.
Affirmation, man. You said blessed. Yeah. I just want to say, shout out.
Yeah.
Those are just facts, man. We're blessed. Even just to be having this call with you guys, man. Imagine. Yeah.
The fact that we can talk to each other, and the fact that I think that I have this connection with you guys is amazing. And I hope, that we can keep these connections going, for a very long time. I think that it's really important for creatives to collaborate, creatives of all types. Of the point I'm trying to make is, being able to sit at home and have these connections and talk to people and have, creative juices flowing. It's an absolutely amazing thing. Also, again, as Cameron said, the liberty for us to be working at such a young age is an amazing thing. As much as I don't want it to happen, I don't want us to constantly make mistakes and have a major breakdown. But if it does happen, we've still got tons of time. I think it's great. I think mistakes are a wonderful thing. Yeah. Mistakes allow you to learn. The best way to learn is from mistakes. So yeah, I think that's a major advantage we have at working at such a young age.
Do you think, or do you feel like right now, because this answer can change, but for now, do you feel as mistakes, like everybody's gonna make them, like to the point where you kind of allow mistakes to be factored in your process? Or is it gonna be a situation where some people, one mistake is enough? Not to say that they wanna like fight off mistakes, but they just know one mistake is enough. Even if it means taking things slower and stuff, but one mistake is enough, not too many. Because I'm just asking from the perspective now would be mistakes from the fact that we have older people above us in different parts of life that can continue having conversations with us, and we can look at what they're doing and see where they went wrong. You still feel as if mistakes is just a thing where you will continuously, without having to think about, let me take a step back, do it slowly.
Can I start?
And I'd like to hear everybody's answers, please.
Yeah. No, I personally feel that, there's two sides to that question. And the first being, one mistake is enough. And on that perspective, on how hard you work on that, I think that depends on the person. But I do think that, whether you like it or not, you are going to make mistakes. No one's perfect. And I think mistakes are 100% part of the process. Especially if you're venturing into a new field and trying to learn things, you're not going to learn anything new from sticking with what you know. There's this bar that I keep repeating, and just because it meant so much to me at the time, but it's by a guy called Andy Mineo, and he says, if you want to live a comfortable life, be sure to never love nobody, be selfish, and never sacrifice, And it's like, that's the kind of mentality that I have when I think about mistakes.
I think for me, like the way I look at mistakes is obviously you can learn from other people's mistakes. Obviously, you're going to face your own as well. But something that I've learned, and I learned it from a guy called Ari Robinson.
He made the Ari camera, yeah?
No, he didn't actually. He was
inspired by.
But it's funny because his name is Ari and he's sponsored by Ari. So he's the guy who shot La La Land, and so he's the actual camera. He's the actual camera guy, and he said, "You're in like you are gonna make mistakes, but as soon as you've made two, that's when people start worrying."
Because if you make a mistake and you do nothing about it, that's when people like the homie I was talking to. This dude kept doing the same thing, and I was like, "Bro, like, okay, tell me, learn.
Yeah,
let me learn from my mistakes." Like that was what he kept saying. Let me learn from my mistakes. Okay, but I can't let you learn if you keep doing it 50 times. Like then you're stupid.
Yeah, I believe that mistakes are part of the process. We should view mistakes as inevitable, but we should not be ruled by the fear of making mistakes, if you get what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
You should go out there and do your thing. Accept it, that the fact that, it's a possibility, but I'm not going to let it determine how I do my thing or how I go about expressing myself.
All right, so the next question is real nice. We had a real nice chat about this. So do you guys think creativity involves putting your heart and soul into your work? Is it more like letting your mind flow freely to witness the surprising results of your actions? Take it away.
How I see it is that, we shouldn't box it. You know what I'm saying? We shouldn't act like the brain is like compartments, because it's really not compartments. It's like your being and your consciousness is not it's not defined. So you can't say, okay, this is the free flowing part of me, or this is the more rigid part of me. It's all part of you, and it operates together. You know what I'm saying? So I think the best work comes from having that balance of this side and that side, using it together to really, one as a tool, then maybe one as a medium, just to like execute whatever you want to execute in the best way possible.
Yeah, like it's a very fine line of finding a balance between the two. Like, you shouldn't look at these two things as two circles. It should be like a Venn diagram. They should be intersecting. So you'll see, like, a lot of the greats, like people who were really good at their art, were a combination of the two. So it's finding that balance of, okay, this is me putting my heart into soul, my heart and soul into it, and this is what it looks like, and it looks fantastic. And then this is me putting my mind and just letting it flow and seeing what comes out, and it looks fantastic. And then just like finding that sweet spot between the two, where you hit like the
Zen.
creative Zen spot. Like,
Yes, sir.
The way I see it is like, I think I can kind of separate it only in the sense that, like, sometimes you're gonna have work that's based off emotions purely because you felt something and you did it, and then there's gonna be times where you just overthink it and you just end up with a pile of, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't want to differentiate them two, like they're different, but you get different types of work with different methods of thinking.
yeah.
So just for my answer on the whole, putting your heart and soul into it, and I'm studying design, kind of like a problem for me because I'm an artist at heart. And let me explain it better. Like, designers hate saying that they're artists for some reason. They try and take it, not meaning the corporate world. They try and take it and put it as its own field, and be like, no, we're not art, we're design, because the whole purpose of design is functionality above aesthetic. And so they're all about making sure it works. So for example, a chair, they want to make sure that a chair does its job before they even try and look at making the chair look pretty, However, for me, I believe that all designers are artists. I believe that everything you create, it's an art form. And that's the whole purpose of this assignment that I'm doing. And the reason I'm talking with you guys is because I believe that you guys believe the same thing, in that everything you do is an art form. And so what I'm trying to imply is that there are some things that need to have some form of, planning. So, if you're going to make a chair, you need to get the math right. You need to make sure that, the sizing is correct and there's all of that. And there needs to be a form of planning. However, in that planning, there needs to be a creative process. There needs to be a space for the creative juices to flow. And so I think the process between passion and really just letting your juices flow is being able to find that balance between the two. It's being able to say, you know what, I like this, and so I'm going to put passion into it, but not to the point where this is the only thing I focus on, where I'm focusing on functionality above, aesthetic.
Next question.
All right, this one's the personal one. How do you keep yourself motivated and interested in your work when you have an art block?
When I have a creative block, sometimes I stop doing anything that I'm doing, and I just sit with myself outside. And that's and then when it comes back, I go back to reading on internet, books, just exposing myself to what I'm interested in. Yeah.
So for me, the biggest way to keep motivated is to stop working. Like, you need to take breaks. You'll be busy on a project, whatever, and if you oversaturate yourself with the project, you're going to end up not seeing it for what it's supposed to be seen as. You're going to end up just seeing it as another project. So you've got to, sometimes you've got to plan out your day. Like, yeah, I can edit for 8 hours straight. I can do it, but you shouldn't. You should cap yourself. Yeah.
I'd say, when you have art block, just like, okay, I like do a lot of different things. So I'd say that when one thing isn't really working for you, try and channel that emotion or that ideal concept through another form of media or art. You know what I mean? It might not always be what you think it is, or be intended for what you think it's intended for. Sometimes the mistake can be the one that really puts you out of it. So yeah, I'd say with art block, you can try switch mediums, and also you should like, I know a lot of people say you shouldn't compare yourself, but I think you should, because that in a way is progress. You know what I mean? You can compare yourself to older versions of yourself, so that can be a motivator. That, look, I don't want to be the same artist I was yesterday. I want to progress. You should never be satisfied. You know what I'm saying? You can be proud of what you've done, but satisfied is a different situation. You should always have that hunger to do more, you know, to be greater. And I think that's the greatest motivator, that hunger.
You guys touched on a few points, and I just jotted them down so I don't forget. But like, the first one is, when I see these dudes who are like, yo, I grind all day, every day, no sleep, you know, we up for 2-3 days at a time, and it's like, y'all don't understand.
Cab.
Like,
Nobody
yo, people, like, I mean, right now it's probably just because of the lockdown, and so our sleep schedules are completely like destroyed. But if you don't sleep, you can't think. You know, it's genetics. Like, if you don't, you know, if your body doesn't rest, if your mind doesn't rest, you're not able to process things clearly or as clearly as you could, and you probably wouldn't come up with the best version of something you could make, you know.
I'll say this, bro.
Yeah.
Like, it's one thing to grind a lot, but if you're not producing, you know, results,
yeah,
you need to change something.
Yeah.
You can't always just be grinding the same way. Sometimes you need to look at your process and think, okay, maybe there is something that I'm not doing right.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing an abnormal amount of work for a substandard amount of, you know, results, something's not clicking.
Yeah, I had a few more points I wanted to touch on. Like, me personally with the art block thing. Like, it sounds tacky, but like sometimes you need to find your escape. You know, that sounds so cliche, but like you do need to find your escape. Like, sometimes, you know, as you guys said, you saturate yourself. Like, for example, my dad, he used to mix back in his day, and you know, sometimes he would mix for really long times, and then he'd pick up an error and he wouldn't be able to, you know, hear it, and then he'd take it to the engineer, and he's like, yo, you know, are you hearing this? And he's like, listen, bro, you're hearing your own things because you've been listening to this for so long that you don't hear it as a whole. You only hear that specific part. If you start, like, Oda, I'm sure you felt this, like if you're ever doing a sample, like you're trying to sample a song and you play the sample over and over and over and over, and when you hear the actual song, you hear that sample and you're like, I don't want to hear this song anymore. The sample ruins it all just because you listen to it. Hate it. It's horrible. So you do need to find your escape. Like, me personally, it's football, because football is just, I mean, it pushes me to a different kind of like challenge. My last point is with the whole comparing thing that Oda said, you shouldn't constantly compare yourself, but I think you should find inspiration in others. When I'm really like a creative blog, there's this one girl from the UK, her name's Minnie Smalls, and she does the most, like, the prettiest little like watercolor paintings, bro, and she has the nicest voice, and it's so like relaxing that if I go listen to that, I'm like, yo, I want to create now. I think it's also good to have an external input sometimes to push you beyond what you're comfortable with. And I think by doing that, by forcing myself to try new things, I discovered so much about, you know, my own style and about myself. And I think that was really, really cool. And I think that applies not only to design, but to real life. You know, trying new things is a really important part about life. I think with quarantine has been like, this lockdown has been really like a game changer for a lot of people. How many of the people you know are scared because, you know, for the first time they've had to, you know, just be alone for a moment. They're not surrounded by other people. They're surrounded by themselves and themselves only, you know, and they got to reflect on themselves. It's an interesting time, and I'm appreciative for this, you know, as much as it's because of a bad thing. I think it's, you know, it's a blessing in disguise for me personally. You know, it's been a lot of time for reflection creatively. So, anyone else want to add, or can we go to our last question? All right. And this one is, what do you guys see for the future of design and art?
See a lot of technology, a lot of technology. Like one thing I know I won't be able to run away from is just the ability to code, or just the ability to communicate whatever we have in our heads to people who have the tools to digitize it. Mm-hmm. I think that's going to be predominantly 80% of the work in the future. So I definitely think majority of our work is going to be online based. People are going to be making virtual reality a place where you can go make cars. They're already doing it, but I mean, yeah, things are just going to be a lot of technology incorporated. So the traditional methods are going to be even more important, and you can imagine the ones we don't even know now. So yeah,
the future for designers, it's kind of it's a weird concept, because if you're in design specifically, you should be thinking about the future already. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Because if we're talking like specifically design, because you want to try design things that like will be comfortable, or will work, or will have purpose in the future. So it's, yeah, I don't know. I think, and we're already seeing it now. A lot of design and stuff is cycling back to stuff that happened in the past. So a lot of people are going back to the past to kind of get like to grab ideas and then just pull it back to like into the future. So like it's also the future of design is allowing a lot more creatives to design the work that they planned, because there's people that have sketched something out in a notebook that's sitting on a cupboard, and that thing will only be feasible in 20 years, because that's when we will have the technology to do it. So I think it's just a whole nother level of progression. I don't think we can even imagine what's going to be happening in like 5-10 years time.
Yeah, definitely.
I think as the world gets more digital, it just means that design is going to be more prevalent. It like moves, I see it as it moves parallel with the world, because design needs to work, it needs to be functional, you know what I'm saying? And as the world changes, design is going to change as well. You're going to have a lot more jobs or positions that didn't even exist, 5-10 years ago. The future is just going to be very interesting in that sense of, you don't know what to expect. You can have your predictions, but the mediums that we're going to be working on, and just, the different technologies that are going to come about, because technology does grow exponentially. And I think design is going to go side by side with that, because technology and design, it's like, as long as there's media and technology and design, those three things will always work together. So I think, the future is going to be something like that.
I saw this interesting interaction between a non-creative business guy and a creative, and they're basically talking about how because there's machines that they make their own paintings, and it's like the guy said, if machines can do that, then you're replaceable. And the moment he said that, I was like, oh, damn, maybe he's right. And the artist or the creator just hit him back. He's like, yeah, machine can do that, but who do you think put the pattern in the coding? Like, who do you think told the machine that this is what you need to paint? But the creative outlet, that can only come from people. I don't think that like creatives and artists can never be replaced.
This is where my question comes. Based on everything you said, I have like 3 questions, but they sub questions, but they all one question. We talk about the future as if a pandemic won't come again. One, we're talking like there's no some like post-apocalyptic world where the economy just like to shit, and we haven't spoken about like when there's no one making money at all. Are you still gonna make art? At what point will you stop making art when you're still alive?
I was making art before I made money. Like, I'm doing it for free right now. I've been through it, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not that bad, man. It's like, it's a different situation if it's putting food on the table, because right now it's not my main source of income. But I think, personally, I'm never gonna stop.
Yeah, I think you hit a certain point where you realize that art isn't just like a form of income. Even if it is, you realize that like this is actually like a part of me. This is something I need to do. So yeah.
So like, isn't it crazy how like one thing I noticed in this pandemic, the thing we use, like everyone knows at this moment, the craziest thing is everyone acknowledges that money is stupid. Like people know right now, money is dumb, because money can only buy you 3 things: food, electricity, and water. For now, that's all you need. So like now imagine when people just feel like as if, why do I need money? Especially when like you can't print more and you can't take away, because the banks control that. So now imagine you get to a point where like we tired of the AIs drawing our art, we tired of the AIs designing our cars. Someone just fucks the whole system up, and then now you're trading artworks, and now you're basing your talent of art or whatever you made to like get by the day.
You know what I think is gonna happen, bruh? Because you know how people, as technology moves on or whatever, you still get people that hold on to their relics. or like they still appreciate the manual form of the art or the traditional way. You know what I'm saying? So even as AI goes and is able to whatever do what it does, I think there'll still be a large community of people that appreciate that classical way of doing things. You can find that in some cases that's a larger market than the newer stuff, you know, just because of the taste of people.
I think that whole point is, even if you don't think so, but that point is extremely relative today, and it's been in the last 50 years. I mean, only today is like contemporary art and stuff like that getting really expensive. So like paintings by, you know, the boy Pollock, or all these mad, you know, contemporary conceptual artworks, Damien Hirst, you know, all these artworks are really only, you know, making money now. But in the 50s, pop art, Andy Warhol, and nobody, bro, that's labels, that's Coca-Cola, that's, you know, that's business. That wasn't crazy artworks then.
Hey man, that was hard though. Come on, man.
No. I mean, it's hard, but I'm saying we're only really appreciating it now. You know, we have this idea of traditional artworks, bro. Traditional is, I think, is out the window, because, like, you know, what's traditional now? You know, what is?
Bro, traditional art is cheeks, bro. Like, I'm gonna be honest, bro. That shit is cool to look at. You know what I'm saying? But the Mona Lisa is not the greatest painting in the world just because it has like a high price on it, or because Da Vinci painted it.
I don't understand.
There's so much more out there, bro. There's so much more out there. But people, do you know, the myth precedes the actual object, bro.
But
like,
that's also like that whole concept of like just money, putting a value on something. Like who are you to put a value on something? Like if you paid me 101 Rand for a 100 Rand note, that note is now worth 101 Rand.
Look at Zim dollars, my guy. My uncle has a case full of Zim dollars. From like, he's got like 3 trillion in 2 cases.
It's like a briefcase. You could probably buy some bread,
bro. But
you know what I mean?
It doesn't make sense.
Point where it's what society agrees upon collectively. The only reason the thing was bidded for $450 million was because the art auctioneers and the art, you know, collectors and museums all agreed that, you know, yeah, this is definitely worth that kind of money. You know, if they all decided, you know, there are works that's better than that, but they collectively decided that this is worth $400, then that's what it's worth. It's only worth what, you know, the collective thinks about it. Whether that's right or wrong, that's up to each person. Now, sorry.
Bro, and you know what it is? It's just people collecting, bro. Yeah, it's not. They're not buying the piece. They want it for the money, bro.
No, but
they just want it to hold value, bro. They could care less what's on it, bro.
100%.
It's like buying a gold brick to them, bro.
Until recently, art was used as like a way of tax evasion because you couldn't get taxed on art, but now they changed that. But Mac, I just wanted to add on a final point that you made, like, you know, when do you stop making art? I don't think art will, you know, as much as human life exists and human consciousness, I don't think art will ever stop being made. Why do I think that? The situation we're in is nothing compared to, let's say, you know, a person in the middle of Germany when it was getting completely bombed out. You know, you're hiding in a basement and everyone you know is dead. Everything is getting bombed out. That, you know, in today we look back at them, we're like, yeah, that was only 6 years and it passed and they lived, you know, and of course they went on with their life. But if you're that person, you're hiding in that bomb shelter and people, you know, you look outside and it's just like, I don't know if you've looked at like Berlin and all these cities. Just go Google like cities that have been bombed out during World War I or World War II, my bad. And it's like, there's nothing left. Now imagine, you know, the home you're living in, and you look at that and people were able to look at that and live through that and still make art. Who am I to say that, you know, my situation is too bad to make art, you know? I think the human spirit is something so strong that, you know, it's untangible.
On saying that, it's also like, I think like we as people fall back on art forms as like a coping mechanism. Make some bread. I don't know. Go paint a painting. Go do what Anne Frank, dude, fell back on her literature work. Like, it's,
whoa, that's what I'm saying.
You know?
That's what I'm saying. And it's like,
that's boring.
You know, she literally wrote to the last moment, like to the very last moment that she could.
Yeah.
She was able to do that. So if you can't look at that and be like,
bro.
something else, I'm sorry.
Speaking of World War, bro, like, have you seen how a lot of these poems that we do in English, it's like from the war, bro.
Exactly.
These guys they got traumatized and stuff, but
Oh,
it inspired
hard.
It yeah, like hard, but inspired them to do something great with their pain, and they came out of it one way or another.
I had that conversation with, man, I don't remember who it was, but it was, I remember it being someone who created really, really good art, and it could have been an art lecture or something. But, it was again, that question of, what is art? What is, who am I to say that this is art? And she just said, if you like it, it's art, bro. Now, whether that's your intention or not, that's completely up to you. Like the artist cannot make art because he wants it to be art. He makes it because that's what he likes, And if I walk up to a painting and I'm like, I like this, then this is art for me. If I look at the Andy Warhol printings of Marilyn Monroe's face, that's art for me. But for someone else, that's just patterns, And I think it's again, the question of what you like is art. Now, intention, that's all up to the artist. But then that comes back into play. That comes, back into the play of concept art. Artworks where the physical being of the art, like the physical thing, isn't important. It's the concept around it. So, I mean, there's this artist by, Damien Hirst, multi-millionaire, if not billionaire.
Oh, yeah. He's hard.
Yeah, he's crazy, and people hated him. Like, they hated him because all of his art, he wouldn't do any of it. Like, he would tell people to do things for him. There's this artwork that just blew my mind when I finally understood it. Like, it's called The Inevitability of Death to the Person Who's Living, right? And it's literally a shark that a giant tiger shark, a real one, he fished out, or he asked someone to fish out, and they slice it up into 3 tubes, and they put it in gelatin, and you can look at this thing from all angles, like it's as if it's in space, right? It's in a volume of gelatin, and you can look at it in all spaces, and its mouth is open, right? And if you go there and you stand right in front of it, and people were like, how is this art? How is this art? And he was like, did you do it? No, but I did. And I think it's cool. So it's art, And the whole point of the name, which, struck a chord with me, was like, if you go stand in front of that thing, in front of that giant thing, because that, dude, it's like massive. It's a really big shark. Like, I don't think we understand how big sharks are. But you stand in front of that shark with that thing's mouth open, because you can see it clearly. And you tell me you're not scared? He says, there's even if it's like 1%, even if it's 1%, you're scared. And even though you shouldn't be. Why? It's because of the inevitability of death to the mind of someone living. You can't perceive death. You can only be dead. So you can't physically see death. You can see it embodied in someone, but you can't see it. So it was like, it's concept art. It's not the shark. It's what you feel. So, concept art comes into play when we talk about, what do we think is art? So I think things like concept art are crazy.
I just wanted to ask you guys, since, we all on this tip of artists expressing yourself and that, how do you guys feel about the chat of good art versus bad art? What's good art? What's bad art? Is there good art? Is there bad art?
That, again, is 100% up to perception. How you as a person perceive art. So if an artist was constantly concerned of whether his art was good or bad, then it wouldn't be art. It's just, creating content for other people to like. But that for him wouldn't be art. If we take, let's say the Mona Lisa to the kids in Kalicha. If they like that, cool. But if they don't, then they don't. It's all about what they find as art. Now, those same kids might not like the Mona Lisa, but they will like a toy car that's made completely out of wires and things like that. And, I'm sure you guys have seen them, those toy cars that are made. They will find that as art.
They're hard.
But it's all about what you perceive. Now, the whole chat of good art versus bad art, again, it's what you like. Me personally, I hate these drip paintings and all those, crazy just one dot in the middle and call that art. To me, that's not art. Like, to me personally, I don't like it. Like, I understand exactly why people like it,
Why?
but I don't like it. Because me personally, I am someone who appreciates skill. And I feel, you know, in my heart that, you know, even though I understand the whole chat of it took this person years to do this, you know, they evolved as an artist to get there. But I don't like it, but I appreciate it. But now if I take, you know, there's people who, yo, bro, it's like with music, bro. Like, some people absolutely love like rap, bro. Like I think everyone here appreciates rap. But there are people who really don't like rap, bro, and they don't find that to be a form of like good music. So it's the chat of good and bad is all about taste, bro. I don't think there's good art. I don't think there's bad art. It's all about what you perceive. Yo, bro, I forgot his name. He's a French surrealist.
Yeah.
But this dude took a toilet and he put his name on it and he submitted it to an art gallery for an art exhibition. So the fact of the matter is, you don't have the how can I put this? Not the exposure, but like the profile to pull that kind of stunt off.
Now this is back to just what you were talking about. I just want to like respond to, you said it's a lot about perception, if you think it's nice or not. So like, I keep on asking you this because now like it comes back to that Anne Frank example. Like, if you don't have the tools to even just have the ability to know when you're making something artistic, like as you said, those kids, they could be like, that toy truck, I like it, cool. But if the difference is between the point when he saw the toy truck or the metal toy truck and the point where he was taught what goes behind making the metal toy truck, you know what I mean?
Cam drop.
So in that little journey, what happened?
I don't know, man.
No, this thing's tripping. So anyway, in that journey between not knowing and having the tools to know how to make it, like, is there still that perception? Does it disappear somewhere in that little journey? Like, I don't know.
That just comes right back around.
I think perception is like,
yeah, like if I may.
No, you can catch it.
Yeah, that whole chat just goes straight back around to what you're influenced by. I don't have a single doubt in my mind that child was influenced by that around him. The fact of the matter that I like Playboy Cardi is because I hang with niggas who listen to Playboy Cardi. But bro, do you know how nice it was to go to Brazil and no one knows who Drake is? Like, no one listens to Drake. Like, that was so nice. Why? Because no one there listens to Drake. You're only going to be so influenced by society around you. Whether you like it or not, you know, it influences you in such a way that it's consciously or not, you know? And so I think, you know, your perception is 100% influenced greatly by your surroundings. What?
I was gonna say one thing before I slide. I was actually gonna say, you know, people are not static beings in the sense that once you have one perception of something, it can't change. So with that Mona Lisa or the toy car, or like how a child places value on that, you know, the fact that where he is at that time in his life, at that exact moment, the things that he knows, the things that he doesn't know, that does play a role in how he perceives those things. Mm-hmm. So his perception of that can change as he grows or, you know, learns information. So I think, yeah, we shouldn't look at people as these static things, whereas once you've established and it's like a value for something, that's how it's going to be forever. You know, people can change, people adapt, people grow. It's like, yeah, it's dynamic. That's the word I'd use.
Was that game?
Yeah, I think it might be raps, eh?
Yeah.
Blessings, guys. This was dope.
Dope chats.
I appreciate
blessings,
it.
My boy. Hold on.